opinion. Here's your host, Brad Allard.
Oh, you're not going to hear my opinion today. We're going to hear Victoria's opinion because we have a lot to go to the meeting tonight, so we're going to talk about that. We have Josh substituting for Taylor. How you doing over there? Doing all right?
Doing all right.
You figuring all this out?
Yeah, I got the hang of it.
Well, you'll find this one of the easier shows because Victoria has this lots and lots of stuff to talk about. So it won't be, we won't be flashing a lot of videos and stuff. But they do have a picture. We want to watch the picture after the commercial run.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, yesterday I came in and did like a 20-minute blip on what happened with Mr. Biden, and I'm going to do another one Thursday afterwards. But we're not going to talk much about that. We got more important things.
Stuff locally cooking.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I don't even know all the details of that anyway. They haven't returned my calls over in Delaware yet, so I know.
I thought you had better connections.
You'd think, but then they saw my voting record and they said, nope. They said, there you go. All righty, so let's go talk about our sponsors because they make all this happen. First of all, our good buddy Otto at our place. I was there Thursday morning, great place, great grub, the whole thing, great service. And yesterday I had lunch at Gina's. I had a mid-afternoon lunch. My daughter's moving out, and we're all, so we're all kind of off schedule a little bit. And so I went and they had a special going on, the sausage sandwich with free breadsticks.
Ooh, those breadsticks are like air fluffiness.
Yeah. So I took those home, so we're going to have them tonight.
Ooh.
But Gina's really is a good place to go. So I hope y'all can make it out there. You've been out there several times.
Oh, yes. I was there on election night.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, we still have 1 hour. Let's go get pizza.
Yeah. Oh, really? You didn't have like a watch party or anything like that?
No, I had a let's eat pizza. It was the city had an event that afternoon, so I was on duty, and then the kids were like, "Please." That's how I bribed them to be good.
Yes,
pizza?
I don't. Yeah, same thing. If they're good in church, we'll take
That's
them.
right.
To
we go to our
pancakes.
place. The kids and I went to our place in Mansfield because Audrey had a dance thing a couple weeks ago, and so we just went ahead and ate there. And they have their standard orders, but the Mansfield location did not let them have their standard order. And Audrey said, I'm going to talk to Otto about this. Aren't they brothers?
Yeah.
It was cute.
Well,
She likes to get the Minnie Mouse special, and they wouldn't let her have substitutions. So.
Oh, my.
I know.
Otto, get on the program here, buddy.
Otto's restaurant does,
Yeah.
and everyone there lets them order how they like. But
Okay.
his brother's a little stricter about the substitutions.
Okay. Dang it, Benji. Come on, loosen up. Anyway, also Wild Cigar and Culture. They got a lot going on this summer. They always seem to have a cigar special going on. They have a lot of vendors coming in. And, get yourself a decent cigar, a gift card, or have a drink there and whatnot. Some people, think it's too hot now, but it's been really, actually, for July, very cool. So you can sit out in the patio and have a drink or a cigar.
And this rain that we just had, who saw that coming?
I sure didn't. Rain in July is exceptionally rare. And so it's a good place to go, though, when it's not so hot. And if you want.
It is so well done. It's
It's a nice joint.
It is really well done.
And our friends over at Southern Gym, they just had a big weekend. They had a year anniversary Friday and Saturday, anniversary of that new location they had, the downstairs location. And Robin says they were, packed on Friday. So, because they had a lot of discounts and a lot of sales, and a lot of people just want to come by and say, hey, congratulations and whatnot. A couple of people sent bouquets of flowers and like, wow, they take this jewelry stuff seriously. But I know you've been there quite often. Yeah,
it's pretty. They did good, and they have lots of good stuff. And they take care of the items that you take to them, which is appreciated.
Yes, they. Robin tells me. I mean, they're like extra careful because they're handling family memories as much as anything else. And a lot of times they get repairs of grandma's old ring or whatnot. That's not something you want to lose. So Also, thank you to Brenda Ramirez over at Two Maids Cleaning, who actually does Gala's store along with the rest of the Windmiller Building. The Two Maids is expanding here in Burleson. They're actually looking for help. It's and it's not just your average house cleaning place. I mean, they get paid based on the ratings you give them, and they have all sorts of plans and programs. And so you can get it once a week, twice a week, once a month, whatever you want. So call them at 817-764-0733 or twomaidscleaning.com/Burleson, and then we'll set you right up. A lot of people, I bring this as a sales pitch, I suppose. A lot of people use it for their parents. My parents live outside their service area, but my mom has to help because she's 82 now. Yeah. And my dad's will be 86 in about a month, and he's suffering from dementia. Yeah. You know how it is, and so Anyway, thank you also to our friends over at Old Pro Roofing, 817-734-2756. When it was raining yesterday, I had no worries because John had just inspected my roof, said it was good to go, so I didn't worry about leaks. I didn't worry about having damage done or whatever else. So this is a good time to get it inspected during the summertime because, we're going to have winter coming up and, you never know what kind of winter we're going to have. Every winter it says like, we're going to have a really hard winter, and it's not. I don't trust the weathermen at all.
No.
So
I want that job so that I can just get paid to make erroneous.
Oh, you mean like my job? I can do it. 817-734-2756. And Jeff Kelly at the Withington Agency. He's at 817-781-0546. He got houses for sale. I share them with my friends on Facebook because he has some really nice houses. So Jeff at jeffkellyrealty.com. He was on about a month ago, and I'm going to have him on again, I believe, in October, because maybe things will be closer to the election. We'll have a better idea what the market's going to look like and all that. And we were talking about rates and all that. And Burleson is still active. You read about slowdowns in other markets, but I didn't hear.
No.
And I guess something that y'all do with. So let's see this great picture that you have of you and your family. Do you have that one booked up? Yeah, there it is. And there's Philip and the kids, and they're having like a boat race.
Brick hosted its second annual boat bonanza or boat bonanza, and you made cardboard boats. Philip worked on this boat for like a week and a half. Every evening, we put the kids to bed, and he'd be out in the garage. So kudos to him for building this.
That's why you married him.
I think he had a blast. I was really proud of him. But the kids zoomed across that pool, and they worked well together. They didn't bicker at each other, and they were in sync, and they got the Spearhead Award for being the fastest across the pool.
How about that?
Isn't that cool? But it was called the Mercroc. One side was pink with the mermaid, and the other side was crocodile and green.
It was a compromise, I guess.
Yes.
Right.
Well, neither of them wanted to do it by themselves. I tried to venture into that. Like, okay. And she didn't know that she wanted to do it. And brother, he was just like, I don't know if I can steer this thing by myself. So they did so good. But I really wanted to commend our Parks and Recs team. I think this is Recreation Awareness Month, but the events that they put on for families, this is a memory maker. The kids had a blast. Oliver carried around his trophy all day and yesterday and showed it to anyone who would listen. We went out to eat at Fresco's.
Yeah, I like that place.
After this,
That's
and
fun.
he was insistent on telling the waitress, like, look at this trophy. It's my first ever trophy. And I mean, that's my husband put in all this time. The kids had a blast. There were families, smiling ear to ear. Everyone was cheering for all the kiddos who raced. It was such a fun event, and I was beyond proud of our Parks and Recs crew because that's what they do. They invest in opportunities for families to spend time together and make memories together and have a lot of fun. And they've done everything in the last month from, come eat watermelon to build boats. And then it was really cute because the aquatics team built a Mater boat. Have you ever watched Cars? The tow truck is called Tow Mater. So they built a boat that looked like Mater, and they raced the crew on the inside, and it was hysterical.
It's cardboard, you say?
It. Yeah.
Did it not get waterlogged or anything?
So it's got lots of duct tape,
Okay.
and then the bottom, he did put varnish on the bottom.
Okay.
So,
well, you worked pretty hard at that.
Yeah, like over 15 hours.
Is he naturally skilled at that kind of thing, or is he had this learned on his way?
I think he's just super detail oriented. It's the accountant side in him, and he watched a lot of videos, and it worked out perfectly because we got a new couch, and so we had this ginormous box, and he folded and glued. We layered cardboard, Elmer's glue, and he had weights on it, and he worked on it every single evening.
Well, I finally met him at the BOF golf tournament back in June. And I'd ask you, what did he do for a living? Oh, numbers, things, whatever. Like, you made him sound like a mafia bookie or something. I don't know.
He works from spreadsheets all day long.
Yeah, and he told me, and I said, okay, that sounds more legit. But I mean, but you were like, oh, I don't know, and
I mean,
these people come and go in the middle of the night.
I didn't say anything like that. No.
I know, but he spends a lot of time on the road, right? Well,
now, I mean, he goes to his clients, so he's client-based, and And so kind of whatever the client needs, you know, if a client's going public or if they have a forensic issue, like they need to clean up a process, then I guess no job is the same, which is why he enjoys it. But I don't get it. It's a lot of spreadsheets and numbers and terminology. I'm like, are you talking English in there?
Yeah, I know.
SOX, SOX. It's like a program. I don't know.
Ah, well, as long as he
enjoys it.
makes
and
time
he
for the
has a-
kids. Yeah.
And that was what was so fun. You know, just the amount of families. There were way more boats than we could have anticipated out there.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's
And there
good.
were all kinds of designs, you know, Moana theme. People were into it.
That reminds me of my dad and I did like the soapbox derby kind of thing.
Soapbox cars.
For Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
You know, I was a Cub Scout at the time. So, well,
I just really wanted to give a shout out to our team.
well,
with
we
the
got a lot
city,
going
'cause
on, though, right? In the summertime.
in the
When
summer.
does school start?
August 14th, I think.
Wow.
I know. You know, the Brick has camps and all kinds of activities. Our library does a phenomenal job. There's all kinds of things going on in the summer. And so just truly we have an awesome city staff that provides opportunities for families and children. And our senior centers constantly got things going. They have a Western Swing, I think, coming up soon. So
And
I
the
just-
library's always got stuff going on, I see.
There's a magic show tomorrow.
Really?
And it's so large. They anticipate such a good crowd that it'll be at City Hall. So Oliver and I will be there in the morning.
Well, how about that?
Yeah.
So you're going to get a nice break when this school starts, aren't you?
I feel like I'll be able to breathe. I
Yeah.
like routines. So
Yeah.
as much as I've enjoyed the sporadic and keeping the kids busy, I'm kind of ready for routine. The other downside is how expensive summer is. You know, like I signed the kids up for this kids bowl for free thing, and so you know, we only have to pay for shoe rental, but that at least gives us some reprieve from the heat. But it just adds up, and that's why I'm really appreciative of the library and senior center and these activities and events that our staff puts on. It's low cost or no cost to our families and gives them something to do, because it's hard to keep kids occupied.
It is. You know, I know that a big deal every summer for me, and it still is for most churches, is Vacation Bible School, and even the heathens will send their kids to that just to give kids something to do. You know?
Yes, yeah.
So, well, anyway, we need to talk about the city, dog.
That's right.
All right. I had a couple things in mind, but I know the overriding thing is the budget, because that's you're getting your final recommendation tonight. What you're telling me,
right?
And then, but the final vote will be what,
in
a month
August.
from
So
August,
we have like tonight's kind of the last time. For right now, it's like the city manager's budget. He puts it all together and he makes recommendations, and then this is like for the most part, it's our last meeting to make some adjustments to it and recommendations, and then he passes it over to city council and it becomes our budget. And after that, not much changes. I mean, it kind of like this is what we've poured into over the last few months, and these are the recommendations that we've heard from staff and directors, and lots of different input from people all across the board. And then we have 2 readings in August, or we have a reading in August and a reading in early September, and then we pass it. So
how well participated is the community in this whole process? I know there are open forums and there's study groups and all sorts of things and opportunities for them to weigh in, but probably you don't get a lot of people doing that, do you?
we had good participation in our survey that we sent out this year and had available on our website. What would you like to see more funding in or less funding in? And people actually participated in it. But I mean, I think aside from personal, reaching out to council members personally, I don't know that there's that much more engagement.
Have you had people call you
yes.
or email or whatever?
Yeah.
What are they telling you?
Well, streets.
Yeah.
What are we going to do to increase that funding? How can we get more done? How are we prioritizing that? And I mean, that's has to be our largest request right now is.
Even more than, say, first responders?
Yes.
Really? Okay. I was thinking maybe the police situation might bring some commentary, or the new fire station, or when I say police situation, they don't have a situation,
Right.
but, they are expanding.
Yeah.
And so I just thought maybe that would get more. Do you get people saying we need to spend less on certain things?
Yeah. On that survey, there were some suggestions about, like, maybe if you could choose one or the other, they would send in. I mean, overwhelmingly, it's streets, maintenance, rebuilds. You know, we passed this bond package and it included a piece for neighborhood street rebuilds, and it
Well, I was going to bring that up with you.
Yeah, we didn't put enough toward it.
You blew up my church's parking lot. You know, You're talking about, you know, my Sunday school class looks right out over all this going on right out beside the old police station.
Yeah.
What's going on out there?
Parking.
Parking. It's all parking.
It's all parking.
Okay.
That old police station that was a post office before even that'll get raised.
Really? Did somebody can't buy that and make something out of it?
It is so bad.
Okay. I haven't been in there. It's a good thing, too.
Yeah,
But I haven't been in there, so.
It's in really bad. We've held on to it and made the best of it. We moved over engineering for a little while, and then we tried HR. I mean, we've tried different things in that building. It is beyond repair.
What do you mean? Is it just falling down?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
Has a lot of issues, and so it'll get raised.
Keep the trees. All right.
The trees are staying.
Okay.
There will be a smaller pad site for something to be built in the future, but
So that whole thing is just parking.
not
Okay.
the whole thing, but a big bulk of it it'll get a larger park. So between that parking lot and the spaces along Ellison, there will be about 100 new parking spaces.
Well, I
Which
know
we need in Old Town.
It made me have to walk a little bit farther in my Sunday school class, but I do it for the city anyway. But it's right in the middle. I mean, it's a mess over there.
We're
So
also aligning, you know, right now, Ellison kind of ends and you're facing that First Baptist Church parking lot. And you can either go over to the left to continue on Ellison, or there's another road that goes on the back side of that. There's a dental office and several.
oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So that'll actually also be aligned.
That little building that's right beside my church, we wanted that property for years, but I guess Shipman outbid us or something like that. And they put, I know there's like a counseling center, there's a spa salon, there's
a boutique.
Boutique of some sort, yeah. And so, and I guess it's better than having like, Twin Peaks next door to the church, but that wouldn't be good.
No.
No, that would be bad.
Yeah, it's really
But
gross.
but as far as that construction, it is a mess, but it'll look better.
It'll look better. There will be a lot more parking, easily accessible, and just flow better, especially once we align Ellison with that other road. So,
And it'll probably even extend Old Town a little bit further. That's a big deal, though. So but the city, they're not responsible for putting in the businesses, but they are responsible for making sure businesses can go in there, right? And there's another piece of property we've talked about quite a bit, and I still haven't heard much going on. Is that where the old Hill College was? Is that still just kind of up in the air?
we haven't talked about it in a while. We're not in any hurry. The city owns it, and it hasn't been on the tax rolls since a long, long, long time.
Yeah.
I mean, because when it was a church, it wasn't on the tax rolls. When it was a school, it wasn't. The city owns it, and we're not in any hurry. We don't want to make rash decisions. 2 years ago we had, I don't know how much you get over to like the South by South area or South Side area, Main Street in Fort Worth.
Oh,
There's a developer called CHC, and they came and presented something that we could consider here, and it just financially didn't really make sense for the city at the time. But there's time. We don't have to rush it, and there's so much private development that's going on in Old Town that I think we kind of let's see how some of that plays out before we make decisions about what to do with that.
I was going to ask you about a couple of things that we probably didn't have time to visit beforehand about, so I'm going to throw a couple of curves at you later to the show, but dealing with the alcohol election. So I'll give you time to ponder that,
Sure.
but let's go back to the streets. Obviously, it's probably one of the most expensive things you do, other than maybe personnel. Are we going to have the money to do what we need to do?
No.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought. Well, I appreciate that answer. That's not very political. We're not going to have enough money to do it.
We don't.
Okay.
And there's no need to, there is no sugarcoating it. Street maintenance, like just keeping them at the current level that they are, which in some cases is not good. We are significantly underfunding what street maintenance budget should be. It should be about $5 million a year, and we have about 1.2.
Lord, that's a significant difference.
It is, and we don't have the ability right now to increase that. I mean, it is staying that amount, this proposed budget that's coming up, but we are funding a study that will look at what a potentially a street maintenance fee could look like.
Okay, we have to define that because you say fees, things go through people's heads that may
Sure.
not be accurate. You're talking about fees upon businesses, developers, homeowners.
Could be any of those. Could be a mixture. Could just be one or the other. And that's why council from our seat doesn't just need to throw it out of like, hey, let's throw $1 on everybody's trash bill. We really need to understand, they have studies like this to look at how much a business uses its roadway versus a single family home. Is it 75 cents on a single family home and $4 per business permit or application? It's way over my head as far as what that will look like, but that's why we are funding a study in this next budget to look at what does that look like and who would it impact and how do you assess that fee? What is the amount? How do you appropriately divide that amongst all the users of these roadways? But the difference between a fee or how you could navigate a fee versus it just being an additional cent on the sales tax, on our property tax, is that it's dedicated. So if we collect a fee that's specifically for street maintenance, it can only go towards street maintenance.
But that's not going to be on this year's budget, is it?
No, it's not.
So
we're paying for the study in this coming budget.
Okay, so basically that 1.5 or whatever it is for streets, that's going to be it for
That's it.
the next fiscal year.
It's it for the next fiscal year, and it'll be it will follow for the following year.
Next 2
Because even
years.
if we assess a fee this coming budget and we do a study and figure out what that looks like, a fee structure, and let's say that the council next year approves it for the following, so it would be collected in the following budget, so it wouldn't be available for 3 years.
Good grief. Things do move slow, don't they?
Well, unless we just throw darts at it and
Right.
say, hey, let's collect $1. Well, is that really fair? Does a single family home put as much stress on a roadway as a trucking business? No. So
Are there studies available already done by other communities?
I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be a good guideline. That was
Maybe.
Mansfield do because they're having the same issues, I'm sure. What does Godly do? They're blowing up. And
Godly doesn't, they are suffering. They built out super fast. They have a lot of municipal utility MUDs. And there's most of Godly is not actually Godly City proper. So they don't have a lot of say or ability to even address their traffic issues.
yeah, and it's not the same little town it was 15 years ago at all.
No.
And neither are we, but, I think in the last few years, definitely, in the last decade and a half, we have tried to be as proactive as possible in all these things, but still you can't account for everything.
No.
Like, price of materials and labor and whatever else is going on.
We
But
definitely have underfunded streets, particularly street maintenance. And then things get beyond repair. So simultaneous, we also have a study currently undergoing that is looking at every single roadway in our entire city's network and saying, it's looking at how is it built? What's its base and all of those layers and things. Was it built correctly? Have we maintained it correctly? Because we're going to have to look at big picture. Are there some roads, some streets in our network that are beyond even repairing? Because as I mentioned, when we're talking about street maintenance, it's just keeping it at its level that it's currently at. And some of those, it's not worth investing those dollars in patching up. If it's in such poor condition, it needs a complete rebuild. So it'll help us better prioritize. Up until this point, we've just kind of been like, oh, I get a lot of complaints about this roadway, let's fix it. But did that necessarily mean, when you have the data that supports, hey, this road was built this way, this one was built this way, this one is much more, it's a better use of our funds to invest maintaining it at its current status than pouring any money into that one anymore.
it's interesting. Who makes those decisions? That kind of granular detail is not what y'all do. So who makes that decision?
Up until this point, it's kind of been like squeaky wheel gets the attention. And that's not we need to be data driven. And so the current, it's looking at network, all roads and streets, and that'll help us as a council and as a city make decisions that are data driven instead of shooting off the cuff.
Well, we got to make clear, though, this fee we're talking about here is not going to be on the next
No,
budget.
there's no fee.
Or the budget
yet.
after that. So there's no reason, I hope, that people will misunderstand and say
Right.
they're going to raise your
We
bills.
are going to have a study to figure out, is that something that helps us? What does it look like? How could we implement it? Because we definitely need to explore any and all options when it comes. We know we need to fix more things. We know our roads are in terrible condition. It's our number one complaint. We all get it as council people through email, through calls. Even my 7-year-old, we're driving down a road and he says, "Mom, you really need to do something about this. I'm bouncing
brother.
all around."
Oh, my.
So, that it's, Renfro, Allsbury, and then some of these, it's not about just maintaining. Renfro, Allsbury, and Hidden Creek all completely need to be rebuilt.
Rebuilt. That would take some doing.
A lot of money.
And
And we don't have
a lot
it.
of
So how do we
inconvenience.
get there?
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm just not paying that much attention. I'm thinking of the roads probably that are less well-traveled that are probably in repair. There is one that I see that is going to be an issue for y'all one day soon, and that's at 714, over by Russell Art Farm. It's going to be an issue because that road is terrible.
Yep.
And I don't know how much is that is the county's and how much is that is yours, but they're having some sort of major development out there. And there's going to
Housing
be
development.
Yeah, and there's going to be more houses built out there. And it barely is a 2-lane.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Renfro when I first moved to Burleson in '91. It was 2 lanes and dangerous, and the trees were right on top of the street, the road, and it didn't have a shoulder or anything like that. And then I think about '94 is what they built it, its current configuration. But the mayor has also said many times they're going to be expanding that pretty soon.
Yeah, well, not soon. It's
Well,
not.
and
It's not
eventually.
in the
Well, it's
5-year or 10-year plan. But
really. I thought it was something that would be coming up in the next couple of years.
no,
Oh goodness,
it's not that quick. I wish it were. It
Well-
needs to. Yes, long-term plans are to expand it into 4 years. I think the issue with that one up front is the right-of-way. There are some property owners that don't want to give that up.
I understand.
And then that's when you have to start going down,
Eminent domain.
or, how can you design it that it avoids that person's property? Is that even an option? Well, if it's not an option, then yes, you have to do things like you have to consider eminent domain, which we don't want to.
I don't know. It's always unpleasant.
It's extremely costly. You go, spend money in courts and all of that, and is it worth it?
But it's also bad publicity.
And if I had to take a guess, I don't think it will genuinely be expanded on it in its current alignment. I have a feeling that road will almost be left as it is, and there will be something that runs parallel to it in some way, shape, or form.
Alex Phillips says, "Good morning." So we need him to get more businesses in here, pay more bills, buddy.
He's doing phenomenal.
Yeah.
We had the ribbon cutting for Alley Cats.
Yeah.
And it was huge. I think they did several days of celebrating, and they've been a great community addition. I'm glad after all of these years growing up here, how long have we wanted family entertainment? How long have councils been asked to make that a priority? And we finally got a good partner, I believe, in that. My kids enjoy it. It's fun to see all the families there bowling this year and riding on go-karts. And
There's some things there that I still like to do, but I don't want to go hang around a bunch of kids, So we got, okay, what are you doing here? No, I still like riding go-karts and stuff like that.
And you know what? There's there's some go-karts that like you get fumigated if you're behind them. These do not. They're not gas, they're battery, and they're quiet.
Yes.
So
they're not like a lawnmower engine on wheels.
blowing in your face with some stinky gas.
I also like miniature golf. I like to do it. When the kids are small, we did stuff like that. But it's one of those things that I don't mind doing at all.
No.
Well, anyway, I want to ask you another question about the streets, and then we can talk about a couple of things. You said the budget for the street repairs about $1.5 million, but you really needed to be around $5 million.
Just repairs.
Just repairs,
maintenance.
right? We're not talking about
That's pothole
streets,
filling.
right?
Yeah.
Can you fill that by moving money from other departments?
As of right now, there isn't an area where we are
There's not like a
spending
fund?
frivolously. There's
Wait,
nothing that we're not, no rocks we haven't tried to turn over to look at where can we pinch, where can we scrimp.
It's funny because politicians said we're going to, eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse like it's a budget item line. You don't
Yeah.
have, so we don't have a line in the budget.
We don't have that line item.
No, there's no line item that said waste, fraud, and abuse. Well, just,
No.
gosh.
No. Where money has, I mean, you can look at tonight's agenda, the recommended supplementals. I mean, the requested are something like $5 million. The amount that's being recommended that we approve is like $500,000.
But it's also not quite that easy to say, well, just take it from column A and put it in column B,
Right.
because some of those column A may be specially funded by a
Funds.
hotel, motel, or
Correct.
by sales tax
Yes.
or whatever.
There's general fund, there's
yeah.
4A, there's 4B.
Right.
And I didn't mention this, but something else we could potentially consider at some point is looking at sales tax, a portion of the sales tax that either goes 4A or 4B. But these are big discussion items. They're not going to be something that's made, in one meeting. But do we put half a cent towards street maintenance? Which is something I definitely think we should consider.
I will say one thing about the decision-making process in government. It may seem like that a decision is made by the city council or other government bodies that is spur of the moment or kind of came out of nowhere, but y'all been studying this for months. I mean, when I was on that committee down in Austin, the quickest we could get from point A to the end of the story would be maybe 8 months, and that's if we put it on the express lane. From proposal to actual ratifying, there was no such thing as, hey, I have an idea, and be past that meeting.
Well, local government does move a little bit faster than that. But,
Well, y'all met every month, right? Or every 2 weeks, right?
we meet, except for July and December, we only have one meeting.
Well, but see, we met every couple of months, but y'all, we had to have, we couldn't even vote on it, even on a provisional vote until the third meeting.
Right.
So that's makes it 6 months.
Sure. I mean, we move a little faster than that, but there understandably, when we're dealing with the public's money, we need a vetting process. It's okay for things to sometimes take a little bit longer so that we're truly asking enough questions. And are we doing our due diligence? There's like we talked about the budget and how, we'll have 2 public hearings before we finalize, it's official. And that safeguards because it gives the public opportunity to be involved and say, wait a minute, did you really dot all your I's and cross all your T's before you go spending and committing our funds to something?
Right. And plus, Texas law and local law is very, very explicit about open meetings, about sunshine laws, as they say. So, sometimes I know you get maybe ambushed by somebody saying, you dropped this right from out of the blue, and like, you haven't been paying attention then, because nothing gets done in one day.
No.
Or even, I would say, even if you had an emergency, you might have a situation that you can make a decision. But as far as this kind of process, it's a grind, and that's the way government should be. I wish our national government was this boring. I tell you the truth, it'd be a lot better world. I mean, because this is what governing is. It's a whole separate thing from politics.
Absolutely.
And,
then the other piece is having, serving on a board that you can actually have discussions with. Like let's truly vet an item or an issue before we make a decision on it. And if 7 of us can act like adults and have a true debate about something, share ideas, one person doesn't have all the answers. And so it's good to kind of debate it, to discuss it, to thoroughly think through something. And somebody may have a vantage that I don't, or another person might, And so if you can sit there and listen to if everyone can bring something to the table and we come out making better decisions for the community as a whole that way.
I'm going to contact Alexa Bedecker and ask her what she's learned in her last 2 or 3 months, because it's a learning curve, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, and you were probably better prepared for this working for Mr. Edwards and whatnot, and your background in administration and public policy, but it's steep. I mean, it was for me back in 2009 when I joined that committee. It's like I thought I knew about teaching and all this other stuff, and man, I was like, whoa. It took me about 2 meetings before I even understood the Robert's Rules of Order, practically.
I feel like this takes about a year.
Yeah.
Especially when you get elected in May and then you go straight into budget and it's like drinking from a fire hydrant. It's a lot of information to vet, and you're presented with a budget with a lot of detail and a lot of decisions, heavy decisions. This is our document that we're committed to. for the next year of how we operate, where our funds are going. And there isn't a, oops, we forgot that. We should have considered that. Well, we can't consider it now until the next budget.
Well, isn't there a process though? If you had an emergency,
There is some.
Okay.
There's a element of a small discretionary, but like big items, like I mentioned, we need to completely reconstruct Renfro, Allsbury, and Hidden Creek. Those are not items that we can just after the fact, after we pass a budget, add on. Now those are major planning, financial commitments we have to figure out. And I don't really know at this moment how we do that.
Well, one last thing about the streets. You say you estimate about $5 million is needed. 1.5 is what we have. What happens when that 1.5 is exhausted? Is just we live with the potholes for the last 3-4 months? Okay. That's kind of what I thought. Well, see, what I like about that, in a way, is that our federal government just say, "Oh, just borrow more money,
print more money,
print more money."
Yeah,
and
we don't
all
get
this
to do that.
That's a
Once the resources are gone for the year, they're gone. I mean, we don't. To my knowledge, we don't come. It doesn't come to that because we know how much about per month we can spend in fixing potholes or making a small repair, and we spread that out amongst that entire budget year. But yeah, I mean, there are definitely some times when it's like, that's not in our budget to fix this time, but we'll consider it for next year's budget.
Also, when we were visiting earlier, you was saying, here's what we'd like to talk about. You mentioned something about the hotel motel tax. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that, so tell us what.
So we have 3 proper, I believe, Alex weigh in if I'm wrong, but we have the campsite. I'm missing the name right now. Jellystone. There you go. For some odd reason, I was wanting to call it Pine Cove, where my child went to camp.
Yeah.
But we have Jellystone, and then we have a Days Inn. We have a couple of other motels there on off of Renfro or near Renfro, and so those are our only actual city proper properties that are paying into our hotel motel tax fund, and it's a additional fee when you stay at one of those establishments that's on your bill. And it goes directly to that pot of money, and pretty much the only thing that can be used for, we basically have a grant application process, and it can only go toward advertising to get more people to come to Burleson. We want you to stay here, spend money here, shop here, eat here, do business here in Burleson. And so the idea of those Hot Mott funds is that they are used to get people to come here. And so those funds are very restricted from the state legislature on how they can be used. Recruiting or advertising statewide and sometimes even out of the state for a specific event or activity that you can come here for. I think there's an element of it that can be used for public art. So it doesn't have a lot of discretionary ability.
Right, you can't just put that on the streets, in other words.
Can't put it on streets. We can't supplement general fund. We can't hire somebody with that, but you can do small projects with it and
like
support
the carnival
events.
stuff and things like that.
Things like that.
Is that what pays for like the carnival in May and all that?
No, like I said, it has to go toward advertising.
Advertising,
as far
okay.
as events go, and then I know public art is an acceptable expense. There might be a couple of other things, but that's primarily what we use ours for. I think in tonight's budget presentation, I think it had a few $100,000 in it, and so we have Hot Mott grant app. We accept Hot Mott grant applications, and those are, again, it can only go toward advertising and promotion of events, so it can't pay for like the law enforcement that has to be at some of these, or it can't pay for the Ferris wheel, but it can be used toward running ads in newspapers, magazines, statewide, tourism websites and things like that.
It's interesting. The thing about it is I always thought Burleson would be a good spot for near Old Town, like one of those boutique hotels. If you've ever been to the McKinney Town Square, they have a hotel.
Yep.
And it's not cheap. It's not like, the Omni or something like that, but it's not, we're not talking about a Motel 6 kind of operation.
Right. It probably has a few, maybe 100 rooms or something.
But less than that even,
Yeah, I
and,
bet.
and has a real nice bar and restaurant and whatnot. I always thought maybe somebody would point it. That might be something someone
Yeah.
consider to have something in town because all the hotels that are on the highway and.
Are not any places that we would really want to stay.
No, well, okay, you could say that. I've never been in them, so well,
I mean, they're just, I mean, they do their job.
yeah.
But as far as like coming to Burleson and visiting here as a destination, something like a boutique hotel or something nice would be a draw. It would be a good partner to that.
You bet it would. You can think of all different types of locations. Maybe that piece of property we were talking about earlier. I don't know if it's big enough, but who knows?
It's a little over an acre.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
who knows
Who knows what it could be?
Yeah, there could be. But I always thought that would happen. But I also want to talk about another thing in development. We are having on the ballot in November, a liquor election, right?
In November.
Right. Why are we not having a separate referendum on that? Like instead of, because like we did back in the day, back in 2008 or 9, I believe, we had a separate referendum, I believe, on allowing liquor by the drink and, the grocery stores expanding and whatnot into the Burleson area, Johnson County part of Burleson. But it's not a separate election. Was that intentional, or is it just the law that you had to put it on you can only have so many elections a year?
Oh, I think we can have, you have to have you have to abide by the uniform election dates. So we have May and November.
I just wondered why there wasn't a separate election. I know this law about uniform election dates is somewhat recent, within the last few years.
Right. But it will be its own election. Even though it's in November, it won't be like on your presidential ballot.
Okay, that's kind of what I'm getting at. So
okay.
So if you go into the voting area and you're a citizen of the community, you're a resident, you'll have your typical ballot where you can vote for God knows who now, but also there'll be a separate ballot
Kinda
entirely.
like in May when you voted for school board and city election. So if you were, and they would ask you, are you here to vote for city? Are you here to vote for school district? Are you here to vote for both? Because they were two different ballots. And so this will be a city of Burleson election because there's some that live in, like you said, that live in Burleson, but on the Tarrant County side, so they don't
get to vote.
Well, actually, I guess no. If your city limits in
would think
general,
so.
you get to vote.
I would think so, but
Right. But there will be. I'm sorry. There will be county. So Tarrant County. Like if you go to your polling location for just Tarrant County, there's going to be people that vote there at that same location that may not also be in our city limits.
I only could vote in the runoffs.
Right.
I voted for Mr. Burns, and as much good as I did, the poor fellow. But
I know, I did too.
yeah, but since I live right outside the city and we didn't have any school board elections, I didn't be able to participate in the city council races at all.
Right.
But so there'll be a separate election, and I just haven't heard anything about. I haven't heard any buzz, so to speak, one way or the other. I know people drive by that specs and they're like, hurry up, 2-minute break is all you need, get back to work, hang that drywall.
But that doesn't benefit
I know, it doesn't
our
help us.
restaurateurs in our city limits.
No, it doesn't. But a lot of people think, they don't understand that law. They just think people could buy the restaurants buy their liquor wherever they want. That's not the case.
No.
And so,
Yeah, now that you say that, I don't hear very much about it either.
I haven't heard, not even on social media, I haven't heard about, for or against.
Maybe after this summer, it'll start picking up.
I don't know.
It is kind of early to start spending money on those kind of things.
Maybe. I
don't know.
But it takes no money for social media. And I was thinking, I haven't heard any conversation about that.
If I owned a business, if I owned a restaurant in the city limits and it was and it affects me, I would be saying something.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
I don't know.
I know.
I'm just a voter in this one.
And I know my friends over at Wild I've talked with them about the burden it places on them.
Sure.
Having buy basically from one supplier, not just financial, but it also limits their inventory.
Yeah.
They can't. If that guy doesn't carry it, you're not going to get it.
You don't get it.
He's not going to order it.
Right.
And so.
And it does affect all of us, even if we're not buying alcohol. When we buy the taco plate, the numbers that it's taking to order specific things, and that's getting passed down to us, even if we're not buying the drink.
Right. You go to Fresco's, you go to any of these places, it is a burden and an expense. And I think I'd like for people to understand that part, because they think we're going to have, these greasy dives with the bars on the window, for liquor stores. But I'm thinking Total Wine, stuff like that. And that, that'd be really be great for businesses. And it's like when I lived in Plano, there was like all these areas around Plano that were dry, wet, and you never knew where you were.
I can't imagine.
It's like, okay, I go into this restaurant, and you had to have a membership. And then I go to one like 2 blocks down, and I didn't, because they were in a different district. How do they figure these things?
A different county.
It was a different county, different city. There was one town that they basically created. This one guy created a town on his own just so he could own a liquor store. And man, that guy made money, because it was the first liquor store you could come to in Plano and Richardson and that area. It's like Buckingham Hills or something. I don't even know if it exists anymore, but it was like a town of like 10 people. And he created his own little town so he could have a liquor store, and he banked. And so I don't know if that's even possible anymore, but that's the kind of thing that happens. People are going to get what they're going to get. I'd rather they get it here than somewhere else. We need the money here. We need the tax money.
I definitely want sales tax here.
Yeah, sales tax. And we're here talking about streets and all this other stuff.
Our sales tax has been significantly, I think we're going to end the year at about 1%. And we budgeted for 3.
Why do you think it's gone down?
Conservatively, and we hoped for 5. So when we think about those supplementals and the additional requests, when our sales tax, that's our additional, that's kind of like the pool that we can, okay, we didn't do as well here or there. That's kind of our cushion money. There's no cushion this year.
Is it because of the economy, you think?
Oh, I believe so.
Yeah, I would imagine.
People are not spending their extra funds, if they have any. But how do you? Groceries are expensive. Everything's gone up, and it's tough for families. And like every single one of us, whatever our income level is, we're all having to make decisions, right? Like we can't get everything all at one time. We have to space things out and plan accordingly in our home budgets, and that's what we have to do at the municipal level too.
Well, I'm surprised though the sales tax is not as high as only 1% or whatever. I thought it'd be, because it seems things are busy, but I do know I was talking to a couple other people about restaurant spending, and they like to go out in these Burleson restaurants, but it's not something.
How do you afford it?
You can't do it all the time now.
You
cannot. Even if you economize or whatever else, and split the meal or whatever
share.
else.
Just our family of 4. It is $70, $80 just to go, have breakfast or just have dinner at Fresco's. And we share a lot of things. Oliver, one of us, or sometimes 3 of us, are all in on a, fajitas for 2. And that's still, it just adds up so quickly. It is not, we definitely don't go out to eat like we used to.
Yeah. And I hate to say that, because we have so many good restaurants.
We do.
A couple of them, are sponsors here, and they tell me it's tough, because their expenses have gone through the roof. I remember talking to Otto one time, and he said like a box of straws is 4 times more expensive than it used to be. And we don't think about that.
No.
About straws, but he does, because he has to.
He has to, right?
Yeah, and so.
Or what about everything, the fresh stuff that he has to buy, and if he doesn't sell it and it goes bad, that's just a loss. I do not envy people in the restaurant business.
I don't either.
Because it's such a gamble. How do you know that you ordered enough chicken or enough beef or enough lettuce heads, for that week? And it's scary.
Well, and I am concerned about our economy a little bit, because I do know in 25 there's certain things coming due at the national level. And would it affect Burleson? In a sense, because one of them is we're looking at a major commercial real estate situation, similar to what happened in 2008.
Really?
Yes. And so would that affect Burleson? You bet it would. If you're having, I don't know, it would be much as affected like it would be like Dallas or Houston, where it has a lot of empty commercial space, but it would impact us. We're not that isolated from the rest of the world. And I get concerned about that. And then also they're talking about, some tax cuts that are going to be expiring, and so that's going to be the big political fight next year, whoever is elected.
Sure.
So we'll see. And all those things affect us here. And, we've been pretty fortunate. Their economy locally has been pretty decent.
I agree.
But we can't take that for granted.
No. And we have a lot of great things happening here. Our economic development team does a phenomenal job of recruiting stuff, particularly that they know that the citizens want. We really work hard to recruit things that are different and unique, can be unique to Burleson, or to have it, or I think we get some of those expansions that, like, it's the first time that they've gotten out of a such and such area. We really do a good job of finding things that will be a pull for our community. But at the same time, there's competition. And
which city competes with us the most? I mean, I can't imagine it'd be Cleburne or Alvarado. So Mansfield probably is what I was thinking.
Waxahachie, Midlothian.
Really, that far? Okay, I thought Mansfield might be our primary rival in trying to attract business. I guess Alex could tell us that sometime when I get him on the show, which I'm going to be emailing you soon, son. Be just prepared. But it's I would figure that's where the competition is.
Yeah.
I guess it could go to Fort Worth, but
their makeup is different.
Yeah, it's
Fort
not
Worth,
the same thing. Yeah.
Now, when they're looking at Burleson, it's not just our 51,000 population. I think we are, the count on the amount of cars or something that drive through town is more like 400,000.
All at 4 o'clock on Wilshire, yes. Aren't you glad that's not your street to deal with?
Wilshire?
Yeah.
Well, I hear the complaints.
I know you hear the complaints, but it's a state highway, right? So
hey,
tell Greg.
The expansion of it from Elk to I'm thinking I cannot. I'm wanting to just butcher the names of absolutely everything today.
Okay.
Wicker Hill.
Okay.
There you go.
Right,
From
okay.
Elk to Wicker Hill, it is going to get a lane on both sides, which will be really helpful. And the construction should start in 26.
26. Oh my!
Yeah.
I hope I'm allowed to see. It's like when sometimes I drive through the big city and I see all these massive construction projects for roads. I'm thinking, am I going to be alive when that thing is finally usable?
I'll tell you, we had we put forth money for engineering right away, but we did not have construction dollars for that 174 project. And working with the COG, I'm now vice president of the COG executive board. And but working with COG, working with TxDOT, we were able to identify construction dollars, and that is huge. So it moved up to 26. It really was out there.
Well, maybe that's interesting because I haven't even thought about this question. But what does your position on the Council of Governments do for Burleson?
Well, that was items like that.
You get some more priority, I guess.
We do. We get to be a part of the discussions. Inevitably, road projects. For example, the county is proposing or potentially looking at a bond package, and a piece of that would be helping to further along roadway projects countywide. So there's a lot that we'll have to whittle down to, but looking countywide at what are projects that were like 174 that have been on the books for a long time, but there's no construction dollars toward it, or we've never. It's just a schematic. It hasn't been engineered. The right-of-way hasn't been purchased. The environmental hasn't been done. What are some of these projects that maybe if we find some local dollars, put some local dollars toward it, it moves the project further along. And inevitably, somewhere across the state of Texas, there will be roadway projects with TxDOT that aren't as far along as they should have been, so the money ends up sitting there. Or I was at a COG meeting recently, and we learned a project that was estimated at about like 32 million is now 68. So there's 30 million that isn't there. So that kind of just goes on the back burner. But the 30 million that they did have dedicated toward that is now up for grabs. So, conversations like this can start to happen when you can locally say, hey, if we take care of the environmental and the design and all of those pieces, and it's just ready for construction, it's literally ready to move dirt, can we find some funding somewhere across the state that moves this project forward? And so sitting at the COG, you have the ability to be a part of those discussions. And it's not just in transportation, but that's a big one because it's on our forefront, right? Everywhere we go, we're in our cars and our trucks, and we're trying to get places, shop, and spend money places, right?
Well, there's all a bunch of things I was going to ask you, but maybe on your next appearance next month.
Sure, we could focus just on COG.
I'd like to talk about also mass transit. That seems to be, for some people, a problem.
You know what's crazy is we used to have it. We had rail that went from Burleson to Cleburne, the intermodal, and it's
I would
kind
love
of
to see that
amazing
again.
Wouldn't it be cool? But
It's not just for nice little retro nostalgia. It's
it would
very
get some
helpful.
traffic off 174
That's
and
exactly right.
35.
Exactly.
But the downside is we would have to build lines parallel to like UP or BNSF, and they don't want that.
But that's a
and it
problem.
costs in the billions,
I
and that
know.
is how those projects kind of fell by the wayside because
Yeah.
the dollar signs just added up.
Yeah.
We can't take care of what we have transportation-wise as it is. We got to figure out how to do that first before we start building more that we have to keep up with, right?
Exactly.
But it would be it's just fascinating to me that used to exist, you know? And
Well, I need to talk about the railroaders, honey. I'm sorry. I know you exactly. But we're getting close. But I need to talk about Cleveland railroaders. All right. So I have Kay Goodell on Thursday morning. We accommodate her. She lives really kind of close to the studio, so we have her on at 9. So she didn't have to drive to Cleveland and then drive back, and that kind of thing. But they do a lot of good stuff. They had Burleson night last week. Did you know that?
I didn't, but I know they have the animal shelter coming up in August.
And they have done,
$5 of every ticket goes to that.
and they've done for Next Step, and they've done it for Harvest House, and they've done it for Crazy Eights and the Crowley House of Hope. And I mean, they're really become part of the community.
Yes,
And
I really commend them for that.
Yeah, now and it's good baseball. I mean, is your
It's
son
very entertaining.
Your son like baseball?
No, but they like rolling down that little hill.
Of course,
where the
right.
grass is.
Right.
That's where they usually are when we go to games.
That's a good thing about it because it's a very comfortable place. You know,
is.
the kids go play out in left field foul
Exactly.
territory, and they, Sunday they get to meet the players and all this other stuff. It's always a big
And the
deal.
fireworks on Friday night games.
Yeah, it's always fun. But we're going to have her on, and we're going to see what they got planned. I mean, their season, they have about 5 weeks left in the season, and then they have the playoffs. So we'll see what's going on with them. Tomorrow I have Jennifer Woods with Harvest House.
Good.
They have their Power of One situation, that's not the word, the program. That's the word, yeah. Good grief. The Power One program where you're just basically asking for $1. And then instead of the usual stuff, and they figure they'll add up. You and I will see each other again this week, won't we? Are you going to be at the BOF meeting?
I am.
I am too. And because we have that breakfast coming up in October.
We do.
And this will be my first time, as far as being on the planning side. Lori Dias is taking care of all of that. So I'm just going to do what she and Patsy tell me.
All right.
You know.
Recruit people to come and learn about the impact that it makes in our community.
As a Hill teacher, I can tell you the impact is tremendous. There's a lot of kids in there that either would be having to go at a lot slower pace or maybe not at all unless the BOF is, helping with this. So it's we got a lot of good things going on. I'm looking forward to September 19th. We have the North Texas Giving Day. There's going to be a bunch of people. That might be like a 2-hour show. And
well, another show you might consider, since you talked about it some in this meeting, is to have some restaurateurs from Burleson to come sit here and talk about what that election could mean to them.
I was thinking about doing it with Chris. Otto is not going to put liquor in our place.
No.
And I don't know if and he probably won't do that for Gina's, but, because just stay with the beer and wine, and that's about it. So, but I know Chris and Nathan have said it really does impact their business. So I saw my thing about getting them out here when it gets closer to the
that's
time.
smart.
And also, Otto did recommend having somebody on the show, the Fresco's manager.
Jaime?
Yeah, I don't know him personally, but they're good friends. So I might get him on here and have him bring samples. I really do like Fresco's.
I love Fresco's.
Yeah, so
It's Oliver's favorite.
is it? Or I can talk to the guy who owns the Rim. I don't. I've been there 2-3 times. I don't know him personally, but I would imagine maybe somebody can come out there from there, come out and do this. And who knows? Anyway, Josh, thanks for
Thank you.
jumping in.
Pleasure meeting you today.
All right, we'll see you
you too.
tomorrow. See how easy this is, easy. This is the easiest show I do because she has all these.
Just give
facts.
me a mic.
Well, that and I mean, I don't have to pull it out of you at all, but also you get all the facts and stuff. You know what you're talking about. So,
Oh, thanks.
and I'll see
I enjoy
y'all.
the work. So
Alrighty.
wish us luck tonight.
Okay. Oh, good luck. I'll see y'all tomorrow.
Thanks.